All right, now again, this is the kind of video I don't typically do on the channel, but I'm trying to really branch out here. It's not just about getting more subscribers or more views and whatnot. This is actually something I've been wanting to talk about for the past few weeks. I just couldn't really find the words, but it's just sad when you cut on the TV or you go online and it's like there's another bombing or a shooting, and it's a crazy world we live in today, that's for sure. But let's kind of backtrack to about, what was it, last week sometime. I really want to kind of talk about my thoughts on the National Walkout Day at schools, where students pretty much walked out and pretty much exercising their right to protest in regards to gun laws and all the school shootings, and pretty much trying to make things better in terms of making school like a safe place to go to. But I just wanted to talk about my thoughts, so this is just my perspective, my opinion. So I'm not looking to cause a debate. I'm just trying to get my own thoughts out there. And, as always, kind of based off how well this video does. Now, I'm not saying this about the numbers, but if there are like a lot of comments and it leads to like a healthy discussion, I think I'll be open to doing a live stream about this where, I'll probably have people call in, give their thoughts, because it really has been a while since I've done like a radio-esque style of a live stream, because really whenever I've done live streams recently, it's just been me and one other person. But I want to try to get it back so there's just multiple callers in at different times to really spread the attention out there so everybody gets a chance to share their thoughts. So with that being said, just talking from my experience, I'm 26 years old. I went to public school at Halifax County, Virginia, in South Boston. Ironically enough, I always wondered about that. Halifax County, Virginia, Halifax County High School, but in South Boston, Virginia. But that's probably because it was like the only high school in the county. In my class alone of 2009, there were over 450 people, just to put it in perspective. And during that time, I'm not going to lie, those were some interesting years, because I'm not making this up for the sake of this video, but there were times where there were like bomb threats almost every week, and it was just ridiculous because everything would be on lockdown. We'd have to go outside. There were drug busts. It was ridiculous. So I've been through and I've seen some stuff. It's just, have I gotten involved? No. I mean, literally, when you grow up around that kind of stuff, it's pretty much you learn from other people's mistakes. That's why I never had like a rebellious stage or petty theft or drugs or anything like that. I've never been involved with it. Heck, I'm going to be honest here, I haven't even touched a gun. Like, I've never done any of that. But I know what it's like to like go to school sometimes and just be afraid, because it was fun to go and learn. The teachers were awesome for the most part. You make friends, and then you really get a sense of who you are as an individual. But I'm going to be honest here, I didn't really know that much about politics, because to be honest, I was from a pretty there were rednecks at my town. But here's my thing, like I think even today I have more white friends than black friends. It's not a preference of color, it's just like the people that I click with, because most of the black people that were in my school that I was familiar with, they were they were pretty much doing hoodlums things, like getting into trouble, stealing, cursing out teachers. And some of them were the ones, I do know one of them. There were times when they were calling bomb threats. They would be out of school because they were suspended. Then they would call in, because I remember, honestly, I'm not saying this to be a snitch, but I can't even remember the person's name. But I do know in one scenario, there was a guy who was suspended. He called into the school for bomb threat. And then, of course, that meant school was canceled that day. And from that kind of perspective, mostly white people in my life at that time, I really just got the feeling that when it comes down to it, I really wasn't politically informed, because when you're around that many people that are Republican based, because when you really think about it, especially at that age, your views, be it political or religion, are kind of in line of what your parents are until you reach like maybe late teenage years or when you get to college. That's when you really become your own person. Like, sometimes your beliefs don't really line up with your parents, whether it be religion or politics for that matter. But let me just say, like, when Obama first got elected into office in 2008, yeah, it was kind of tough being a black person in that town. Let me just put it that way. But let me just talk about the fact of a walkout day. You know, I'm not trying to ramble on. I'm just trying to set the stage for you so you can understand my opinion and perspective. Now, if it came to National Walkout Day and I was in school, I would probably not walk out. Now, here's my thing. I'm not saying that I'm for guns in school or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just that I think I was 17 when I graduated. I was 17 when I graduated high school. I my Even though I wasn't really politically sound, I just know for one, my mom would have been like, now you better stay in school and study. You know, you got SOLs and whatnot coming up. I'm not going to lie. My priorities would have been more focused on, you know, finishing up the semester strong. I mean, this happened a couple weeks ago. So I think this happened around midterms. Yeah, let's say around midterms of a general high school semester. Like, I'm still friends with some of my high school teachers, like via Facebook and other social media outlets. And yeah, they're pretty much in the stages of, you know, hey, you know, I'm getting ready to teach my kids about SOLs or whatnot, just to make sure they're transitioning to the end of the semester well. Especially if it was my senior year, I probably wouldn't have done that. I mean, to be honest here, and again, this isn't me poking fun at kids, but let me just talk from when I was in high school. This was almost 2019 is next year. That means my 10-year reunion's coming up. I just know from my time in high school, I'd say about 80% of the kids that would have walked out of school would have just walked out so they wouldn't be in class. It would be more of a social event than actually rallying for a political statement. And to be honest, I'm just saying, like, in my mind, what would that accomplish? Like, what would that accomplish if I as an individual walked out of school? Would that change anybody's mind? Would that change anything in Washington or whatnot? I highly doubt that, because when you think about all the things surrounding, you know, President Trump, you know, like, oh, the election was rigged, you know, the Russians did this and that, and Hillary Clinton was a thief and, you know, a liar. Even if all that stuff, and, you know, like, he slept with prostitutes and paid them off in the Me Too movement, even though all that noise is still out there in the memes and articles on the radio, what really has that accomplished? Like, has Trump stepped down? No. Has he been put under any kind of investigation and whatnot? Not to my knowledge. So as an individual student who's just trying to make it from senior year, it's bad enough trying to fight senioritis to actually trying to, you know, get out of school to walk. I don't really see the point in that. But again, that's just my perspective. Like, for kids who actually realize what they're doing and what they're standing up for, bravo to them. Like, you know, kudos to them. But I just feel like a lot of kids nowadays, especially in the social media, I mean, now I feel, I'm only 26, but I really feel old when I say that kids today with their social media and whatnot, dang, I do sound old. Do they really understand what they're walking out for? I mean, you're at an impressionable age, especially like a freshman who are just trying to fit in and just find their own place in school. How much do you want to bet a lot of those kids just went out because their friend was going? It's like, hey, I'm going to go march for the walkout. You coming with me? No, I don't know. Come on, man, we're all coming. You see what I mean? So I'm not trying to downplay what the kids did, because it really is important about, you know, gun safety and whatnot. Because when you really think about it, I'm not against metal detectors in schools. I'm not. Even if we had them back at school, I feel like that would have been a big help, for one, from the high school I went to. Let me just put it that way. Because I've never been flying before. I've never been on a plane. So I've never went through the whole airport security thing. But I will say this much. I would feel a little bit easier about getting on a plane, you know, knowing that everybody's being checked out to make sure there's nothing that shouldn't be there, you know? So when it comes to school, you know, parents are out there like, you know what? I don't want my children to feel like they're going into a prison. But that may be true. But not to sound harsh, but I'd rather make it feel like my child is, quote unquote, going into a prison to get an education, as opposed to going in a school with no metal detectors and then sadly ending up in a coffin because some nut job was in there with a gun and shot everybody up. Like, that's how I feel about it. And knowing that, I mean, again, I'm single. I haven't found the right woman yet. I don't have any kids, but I do have a 7-year-old nephew. And just I'm not going to lie, part of me is even scared to even consider having kids in the future, because now it really does speak volumes to when your parents talk to you when you're younger about, man, it sure isn't what, I mean, it sure wasn't like this when I was a kid. Because you just think about going to school, it was hard enough, you know, who am I going to take to prom? You know, God, I'm starting to break out, you know, puberty. My face is starting to break out. God, these finals are going to kill me. I'm trying not to go to summer school. I'm trying to figure out what college I'm going to. All that's hard enough. And then you got to throw in, am I going to be shot today? And that leads to the whole teachers having guns, which I'm not for at all, because again, coming from a public school where you had substitute teachers, like I had substitute teachers who were also hairdressers, like, excuse me. I know one substitute teacher was like my Sunday school teacher from a church I visited at one point. That's how bad. I mean, it felt like almost anyone could get a substitute teacher role in the high school that I was at. Has policy changed? I don't know. I haven't stepped foot into my high school since I stepped out during graduation. Let me just put it that way. So if things change, more power to them, thumbs up. But back during my time, substitute teachers were literally, you could see them at Walmart like that afternoon. It's like one day you see them cussing out somebody, the next thing you know, they're standing in front of your English class. And I'm not lying. That's how it was. So some of them roughnecks and whatnot, if they had guns, and that's another thing, because you look at being black in America, and I'm African American myself. Think about the perspective of a black teacher with a gun. And then you think about how bad it looks if they had a gun out. It's just another reason for them to get shot by the police. It's just hard to say that, but it's true. And then you look at teachers who I've had teachers with serious anger issues. Now, don't get me wrong. There were kids in my class that just you can tell they didn't have any whoopings at home. Like they did everything to pluck people's nerves, especially the teachers. But then I remember having teachers that literally had very, very, very bad anger issues. Now to have them with guns, like imagine them pulling out their gun, threatening, the misbehaving kids to sit down. It's just, teachers are underpaid. There is enough on their plate as it is, not having enough money to buy materials. I've been in classes where there weren't enough desks, enough books, and the list goes on. So making it so they're armed enforcers, as well as having to throw their lives on the line in terms of protecting their kids with guns. Like, don't get me wrong, teachers, there are teachers in the news have sacrificed themselves for the kids. I've had teachers who literally, said they love us all and they'll do whatever it took to protect us. But to have them add on to their plates of, okay, now if there's a shooter, then you have to pull out your gun and, be an armed defender. That's just way too much on everybody's. I feel like school is hard enough, worrying about passing, not being late, and then just having to deal with, the possibility of a crazy shooter, then teachers having to worry about the weight. I mean, imagine if they have guns in their rooms, like, there might be there are kids out there who I know for a fact would try to find the gun and take it for whatever reason. It's just so many protocols and precautions that would need to be taken if that were the case. So I just wanted to round up this video with this. Number one, personally speaking, I wouldn't have walked out during National Walkout Day, because thinking about my high school self, I don't think I would have I feel like I would have had an understanding about what I would be walking for. But in my mind, I feel like, I'm not saying that one person can't make the difference. History has told us otherwise, but I just feel like there wouldn't be a need of walking out, because in my heart, I just know that when it comes to the people in the White House, it wouldn't have made any sort of impact. And number two, at that point in my high school career, I just knew that I was more focused on trying to get out of high school, for one, alive, but also making sure, I got a solid education to pass all these exams, because the last thing you need is to fail an exam, then have to repeat 12th grade or go to summer school. I ain't need none of that. Thirdly, I don't think teachers have guns. Fourth, I think that schools should have metal detectors, because every precaution, even if it makes your kids feel like they're in prison, to make them feel safer, I think that's worth it. And I think that was all my points. So with that being said, again, more of a serious discussion on the channel, something I don't usually do, but just let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How did you feel about National School Walkout Day? Would you have let your kids do it? Did you allow your kids to do it? And just like from my perspective, thinking back to your high school self, how you were in high school. I mean, for me, it's only about 9 years, so it's easy for me to recollect on that. But in your heart of hearts, if you were a high schooler today, would you have really walked out because you wanted to, after having a full understanding of what it meant, or would you have done it just because everyone else was doing it?